Inshallah and Ashe. Blessings to you, my energetic beings. And as always, welcome back to Musing with Tanya D podcast. I am your host. My name is Tanya D. I'm a practicing holistic shaman, medium, an otherworldly life coach, and a subtle energetic surgeon, a reflector by human design. And yes, I've known I'm a reflector for quite some time, since before I actually started my podcast. Either way, my intention truly is to utilize the power of indigenous technologies, wisdom, ancient wisdom of our bones, down to our original divine blueprint, to really navigate through our soul's harmonic, the realm of the elementals, the elemental highway, into and through the imaginal realm, the shaman's portal. And welcome to the season of that, by the way, Scorpio. Really reintroducing you to the magical being that I truly believe heartfelt resides within each and every one of us. This energy blueprint is unique and individual, and I would call it our divine blueprint, really, to really raise our frequency to our prime directive, your inner genius. I do call myself a holistic shaman medium, which is just a choreography of each and everything. And welcome to my podcast, Medicine Room. And I do go live on YouTube at Tanya D for a daily, weekly snippet, if that makes sense. I used to go live daily, but now I'm on the weekly. I generally talk about the element of the week. I believe that's our foundation. I do a moon or two meditations about the moon as a reflector and ritual. I've now added a ritual to my medicine room episode for meditations. I share the element of the day that generally comes from the 4 pillars, but also the Dagara cosmology and technology. I believe the elemental realm is part of our foundation. That's why I created the Rising of the Origins, and that's a gateway into the realm of our own personal elemental highway. Now, a lot of curious minds are wondering why that's so very important. Just even a small understanding of your elemental foundation, that's when you can really utilize the elementals for healing, manifesting, and so much more. And when your elemental foundation is balanced and in alignment with your gift and just living your purpose, your prime directive, that's where everything starts choreographing a new energetic frequency for us and through us. And it really activates the spirit that resides within each and every one of us. We got to bring spirit into the body to be embodied. Our spirit needs to be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and so much more merged with our body, climbing into our skin. But I also share insights with the subtle energies, the bodies, the fields, insights, and a lot more. Being a seer to the unseen as a reflector and also in the Dagara cosmology. But I do hope that your heart is shining bright and everlasting and really inspired and just loving the season of the witches. This week's audio room artist is Jesica Medellin. She's an author, speaker, body positivity advocate, and she's the creative author of the book First Moon Manual, Letters to Our Daughters. It's a compilation of letters, art, and poetry about menstruation, which is going to be our topic of discovery today. She has a master's degree in education with an emphasis in curriculum and instruction design, along with a bachelor's degree in communication journalism with a minor in technical writing from Weber State University. Humanities Book Festival featured author as well, but she is passionate about helping young women feel informed, empowered, and positive about their menstrual cycles. She truly believes that menstruation is a natural and beautiful part of being a woman. She wants to help young women celebrate their bodies and their cycles. So with all of that, let's welcome Jesica Medellin to the corridor here. How are you doing today?
I am so good. Thank you so much, Tanya, for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
I'm so excited. I think this is just so really magical what you've created. How did it all start? Like, where was the journey? Where was this beginning? Like, when did it start blossoming in your mind, in your dream state?
Yeah, I think my daughter had her period during COVID. It was 2020, April 2020. And so I knew that I wanted her experience to be vastly different than mine had been. And I wanted to celebrate her menstrual cycle and ensure that she was like loving every piece of her body. So while we were in COVID, I wanted to have a celebration, but of course we can have friends over, and we're living in Galveston, Texas right now, but we have so much family and friends up in Utah. That's where we moved from in 2018. So I just reached out to our family and friends and asked them for letters of support and love to her as she embarked on this journey. And I went and got her she loved macarons. So I went and got her some very, very pretty, like deep red macarons that had moons on them. And as we started to sit down and read the letters that our friends and family had sent, I knew like, well, we were just in tears, right? Like the support and the love that was pouring forth in these letters, we were just in tears over them. And I knew that I wanted every young girl to feel this way. So that's kind of how it started, is getting these letters from our friends and family. And then I started to reach out to women across like Instagram that I had known or followed and ask them for either letters or art or poetry to support young girls on their menstrual cycle. And what came about was just the most magical collection of support for young women and really women in general for their menstruation.
So in the manual, do you literally follow the moon?
No. So our moon cycle, our menstruation is called the moon cycle, and it happens every 28-ish days, just like the moon does, right? So when I call it the first moon, it's that first cycle that a young girl is embarking on. But inside, it has letters, but it has reflection questions. So, like one of the reflection, and they're after each letter. So, one of the reflection questions is, who supports me? Who are 5 females I can go to when I need to talk about female things? And then it has affirmations. So, one of the affirmations is, I am determined. The art was so beautiful. So, a beautiful artist, her name's Akemi, the artist, she sent me all this affirmation art, and I wrote the affirmations to go with it. So, this one says, I am determined. And determination is the drive to push forward when you feel inclined to stop. It is staying strong in your purpose even when you hit a wall and things seem insurmountable. When you are determined, it doesn't matter whether others believe you can do it. With your determination, you create your own success. So every affirmation, A to Z, is just beautiful words of support. There's creative spaces in here where they can draw, doodle, or sketch. And sometimes there's a prompt. This one says, draw, doodle, sketch the connection you feel between yourself and the moon. And then at the end, there's some period tracking months that you can fill in yourself. And then there's questions. And those questions, I wanted girls to really be able to connect with themselves and really understand, because my entire life, my intuition's been off. Being a Gen X female, we've made great strides, but I still felt like I was always told to be quiet or not listen to myself. If I didn't feel good, was I really sick or was I just faking it? Or, when my menstrual cycle came on, it can't be that bad, right? Your cramps can't be that bad. So I never got to really listen to my intuition. So I really wanted my daughter to connect to herself. And through that, I wanted other women to be able to. So some of the questions after the period tracking are like things that make me feel better or things that make me feel worse. Questions I have about my body, any new feminine products I've tried, which I think is so important because we have all these options out there and sometimes we just buy whatever's on the counter, but those products can make us not healthy, right? Like they can be filled with synthetic materials and things that can make you feel not well. And I think just really like tuning into your body, like new feminine products I've tried, and how does that make me feel? I added, what am I most grateful for? My hardest emotions to deal with, like who's ever asked you about that? You know what I mean? Like we're just told we're so emotional as females and kind of unfair, right? Like it's just this unfair way to put females in a box because we feel so deeply and we have so much to give and so much love and so much caring and those feelings are deep, and then we're told we're too emotional. So I wanted to add my hardest emotions to deal with. Any unusual pain, that's just such an important question because, we're told, oh, your cramps can't be that bad. Honestly, if you have really bad cramps, there's a sign that something might be wrong. Maybe it's not, but maybe it is, and when you track that, you can see a pattern. If it's bad every single month and it's getting worse, or you're feeling it in a certain spot, then you might have something really going wrong. I added a mantra, a quote, or advice to remember foods that make me feel good and foods that make me feel not so good. I wanted Bella's my daughter. I wanted Bella to be very keyed into what was making her feel good. And if she was going to choose to eat Takis and drink Coke, then I wanted her to at least be aware of how those were affecting her body, especially during menstruation. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I love that because I'm aware of patterns. And actually, I had a pattern where I would have awful pain. And actually, what it was is it was my emotions. It was my body's emotions were giving me pains because the person I was in relationship with was not healthy for me. So
Wow.
energetically, my body was giving me those telltale signs. So I love that you tracked that in her book or this book, this manual. I think that's very important. I think our emotional field, male or female, we are not in touch with our emotions. Men
Yeah.
either, and it's
Right.
okay. Like, why am I feeling this way? And it might be a trigger from food. I used to have horrible headaches. I would crawl home. I would have migraines, terribly bad. I don't have them now, but yeah, that was my just telltale signs listening to our bodies. They speak a language. It's a subtle one, usually, sometimes.
Yeah, and I just feel like we're just so far removed these days. I just wanted her to come really back to that and we honor her time of month. So if it's her time of the month, she comes at me, and sometimes she is a little more emotional than I'm used to her being. And I'll kind of have to stop and be like, okay. And she'll be like, oh, wait a minute. She's like, what's the date? She'll be like, okay, I think I'm starting my period. Let me just see how I'm feeling. And if she's not feeling good, we really honor that. We don't push her to do more or ask her to, or get on her about things. I really just create a space where she's able to relax and just love herself. And I try and love on her too, because that's been taken away from women and nobody did it for me. I don't think my mom didn't do it on purpose, right? Like, I'm not saying that. I think that she just didn't know. And now that we're kind of in this era where we're coming back to like divine feminine and energy work and healing, like natural healing, all these things, we're coming back to our bodies. I'm just really trying to help her just really connect.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And I love how it was like birthed into the manual, like
Yeah,
organically, right?
it really was. I think that I had an idea of what I wanted there to be, and I kind of put all the stuff together. I had a really excellent editor, and she calls herself a book doula. She really helps you birth this really beautiful piece of work, and she does it with all her clients. And I was lucky enough to be one of her clients, and what she helped me create, like, I had all the pieces, I knew what I wanted it to look like, and she just really helped me make it come to fruition. So it's really magical the way it came out. Yeah.
I love it. So, how long did it take you to put the book together? Because you have other people that have written in their stories, right? That
Right. So
have
there's
donated.
contributed. Yeah, they've contributed letters. And so it took me about 2 years from start to finish to really get everyone's letters. So I have a little bit of a funny story. I had asked a poet up in Ogden, Utah, who had come. She had won the Standard Examiner poetry contest, and she had this beautiful poem that was made into a YouTube video. And she had been at Da Vinci Academy, which is a charter school up in Ogden. And I had worked there, and she'd come in and done some workshops with our kids. And I moved down to Galveston, and in 2020, I had been following her, and I just reached out to her and I said, hey, I want to put together this book for young women. I would love for you to write a poem for it. And she immediately said yes. And then, a month later, I was like, hey, am I going to get that poem? And oh, yeah, yeah. I'm just not ready. And it took prompting. And that's how it kind of took for a lot of people. It just took prompting, right? Like, they said yes. And I was on that fence of like, do I go for it and keep asking them, or do I just lay off? And if they don't contribute, then whatever. Right. And so I was trying not to be like a bugaboo, right? I didn't want to be bugging people because I wanted this to be very organic and I wanted the right messages to be there. And I felt like, well, if I'm bugging people, maybe they won't feel as inspired, like as if they just did it on their own. Or so I kind of was walking this tightrope with this poet. She got me the poem, and every time I read it, I just cry. As a matter of fact, if it's okay, we'll read it.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Let's do it.
let's do it. Let's just read it. And it was after she had her baby, who was a daughter, that she was able to write this poem. And it ended up being the most beautiful poem. It's so gorgeous. Okay, are you ready?
I am ready.
Daughter, when they tell you to take up less space, get bigger. When they tell you to be quiet, get louder. When they tell you to be anything, be what you want to be instead. If you want to be a flower petal, fresh snow, extra coffee creamer, you can be soft that way. You can be gentle wind and the graceful dance of a butterfly's wing. If you do, be that proudly. If you want to be a firecracker, beat drop, the ocean in a storm, you can be tough that way. You can be an exclamation point and bold with an underline. If you do, be that confidently. If you want to be both, do it righteously. You can hold the microphone and still share the stage. You can paint the whole cityscape and still smudge color outside of the lines. You can use the same arms you hug with to grab every opportunity and claim them all as your own. The world will tell you all the things it thinks you should be and all the ways you should dim the brightest parts of yourself to make it easier for them to see you. Spotlight them right in the eyes. The world knows nothing about the sunshine inside of you.
That is amazing.
So this poet I was supposed to publish in like January of 2022. I ended up not publishing until June of 2022. And in June of 2022, she was named Poet Laureate of Ogden, Utah. Her name is Angelica Brewer, and she's Ogden, Utah's Poet Laureate.
I love that. And I also think it was divine timing when she did write that. There
It
was a
was.
specific reason, right? So sometimes our
Yes.
nudges are a little more subtle. The universe is aligning the fabric for us.
It is. It really is.
So that's kind of your journey. Like that's what led you to really create this manual was your daughter and just women in general. Like you said, the divine feminine.
Yes, absolutely. As I was growing up, I just had a very volatile relationship with my own menstrual period, to the point where it was heavy, it was hard, I was in a lot of pain constantly. I ended up having two ectopic pregnancies. One almost took me out. And then eventually I got an ablation and then a hysterectomy. And had I known, like I'm way too young to be going without like major feminine parts of myself. Had I known back then what I know now, I would have never agreed to those things. I would have done a lot more natural healing and just tuned into my body and what it really needed, which probably was rest. I was going 100 miles an hour, getting my education, teaching all day, just trying to be all the things and never taking a minute to rest, and I think my body was like, dude, you can't do this.
Yeah, I mean, our bodies, they speak a language. I actually have one of my online offerings. It's called The Balance of Being. It's about 6 natural resources that we all have, but we don't put them to use. And one of the resources is authentic rest, not sleep, just taking a rest, time out. And then, so listening, solitude and food and breath work, and there are resources, like I said, we have them. We don't need to go buy them. We already innately carry them all. But
Right.
yeah, just tuning into our bodies.
Yeah. And had I been able to tune into my body back then and know, then my life would probably be vastly different right now. But everything brings us to where we're supposed to be. And so again, that experience nudged me to create the first moon manual for my own daughter and for other women out there. So I know that it's just what it was meant to be.
So, just a curious question, are you going to update this moon manual, this first moon manual, or like collectively just through time space, or like each year, like a new version?
Yeah, so this one, I've actually thought about that, and I'm unsure if there'll be a new version, but I know that I'm going to do other versions. So I really want to do. I have submissions up on my website for new moms. As moms, we're told, oh, just we're told all the advice, right? Like, like, like rest when the baby rests, or when they're sleeping, get up and do all your chores, or like it's all this like contradictory information. So I want to create a very safe space for women to really explore some of their own feelings, because I think that we're told, oh, you'll just love the kids when they come out. And I think that in a way we do love them, but there's also hard times, right? I had a friend telling me that if she was going to write a letter for the first moms or the new moms, she would say, it's okay not to love them all the time. Like, it's hard, and it is hard. And maybe the right word be like, not like them all the time. Like, we always love them, but it's okay not to like them all the time, and so I want to support new moms in that way. And I want them to have a safe space to kind of explore some of their feelings. And then marriages, I think marriage is such a taboo topic right now, because, so many people get divorced, or they're getting married for reasons they think that they marry somebody and that person's going to be the same person forever. And it's just not true. People just change, and that's the natural progression of life. So I want to do one for marriage, and I want to do one for divorce, because I want to support women who are having to let go of relationships and go through those things. And then definitely I've been asked to do one for menopause. So as we close that chapter on our lives as older women, like, there's going to be a space to journal and to write and to read support letters from other women who've gone through it, and things like that. And then the last one, that the submission I have up right now, I have 5 submissions up, and they just kind of organically all came to me from people. They were like, you have to put this up. Yeah, I want to write for this one. I want to write for this one. So the last one is just embracing our sexuality as women. So we've been shamed for so long that we've lost touch with our intimate feelings and the way we are sexually. And I think that that's important to reconnect with that.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure this is the right word, but women have been like the bombshell era, we've been pinned up and what we're supposed to look like or how we're supposed to perform and all of these things. And it's really, I mean, in Utah, the porn industry is neurotic crazy here because of, these expectations. I just often wonder how we got so far away from, like, it's almost, I don't know, it blows my mind to like even I can't even wrap around it. It's like, where did this happen?
Right. And that's such an important thing. And the problem I think we have is that we're not talking to young women about it. So they go into these relationships with men who have been subjected to porn at a very young age. And actually, our girls are being subjected to porn at a young age too, which is oftentimes violent and really all about a man's pleasure and not really about a woman's pleasure. Right. So it's so important to have these conversations with young women, but to have those conversations, we need to start having the conversation with ourselves. We need to start like reconnecting with what's pleasurable for us. What does body pleasure mean? What's our natural instinct saying, instead of rushing in and just being there and, like, do you know what I mean?
I do. I grew up in Utah and I call it the programming. That's why I call them my offers because I feel like everyone's been programmed enough. So it's like, here's an
Yeah.
offer. But yeah, definitely relationships and the pressure, like you're supposed to have sex or not have sex or whatever. It's like, you know, and then you get
Well,
judged if you do, judged if you don't kind of thing. There's always that weird duality as well, among other. I mean, there's so much. There's a huge can you could open just in that little portal. And, even that, waiting to have sex till you're married, you got that, there's so many sides. I don't know if I told you during COVID, I watched a Turkish series called Ertugrul, based in the Byzantine era. And there was a balance between the masculine and the feminine, and everyone had a purpose. I binge watched on that. I literally watched this series 5 times. It was that
wow.
fantastic. But yeah, and it was just amazing. And it was like, obviously I watched it 5 times and it had subtitles, so I really had to pay attention. But
Right.
that was one thing I noticed, the village, everybody had a gift and a purpose and took care of everyone in the village.
Yeah, and we've gotten so far away from that. So it's so frustrating. I think it's frustrating to be kind of like in this awakened state when other people aren't, even other women who are like, oh, women have equal rights, everything is perfect. And I'm like, it's really not. Like, And it's just really hard to be in this state and on this different kind of like thought process and see how other women are still responding to things. Yeah, so a lot of my books just really go into deep, like personal, like self actualization and just women empowerment. Like, I want women to feel empowered in their marriages. I'm very blessed to have a partner who we have very fluid gender roles. I don't have to ask him to do things. He does the laundry. He will cook dinner. He does grocery shopping. Like, I have just been blessed in my life to have that, but I've also maybe manifested that. Like, our life wasn't always like that, like there was a time when I was carrying the brunt of the duties, and out of some kind of thought that that's what I was supposed to do. And as I've evolved and he's evolved, and we've both kind of been able to grow together. So I just want women to feel empowered in every situation. So whether they're in a marriage or leaving a marriage, whether they're getting reacquainted with their menstrual cycle or just starting the menstrual cycle, whether they are a new mom, who's struggling and just needs that emotional support, or whether it's about sex. Like, I just want women to feel empowered and like powerful enough to make their own decisions.
Yeah. 100%. So is there anything else your heart desires to share with my listeners?
No, just so grateful you had me on today. I'm very thankful to you, and I'm excited to share this message. And I just love that your podcast is something, a platform where we can share these messages also, and you tackle these hard topics. So thank you.
Yeah, blessings. Thank you. I love this. I loved the whole thing, the first moon manual. And again, it's the moon, and I do follow the moon, so it just resonated wholeheartedly. And I feel like we do need to do more of climbing into our skin and embodying who we are and the magic that resides within us. I love it.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much.
I will have all Jessica's info in the show notes along with an image from her book. And with that, I'll see you on the other side. Ashe, blessings. If this episode inspired you in any way, please take a screenshot of you tuning in on your device, post it to your Instagram stories, tagging at the Tanya D or whatever social media channel you reside upon. And feeling into your heart, if you don't mind donating to Musing with Tanya D podcast, the link to keep this momentum flowing, bringing online wizards to my show, is there, and I will see you on the other side. Blessings.